Why some players become monsters? What drives them? Is their story predictable and it's all over the money? Today we're going to talk about Guns of Glory beginnings, coincidences, learning process together with unavoidable drama, wars, and leaving the kingdom. Luther, former 168 player, today Loot K33. My 168 Intel says, awesome leader, always helping, great diplomat. So why he doesn't play 168 anymore? We're going to talk about hackers, rogues, about top 10 game monsters, K33 and 169. Luther's story is amazing and quite surprising. Let's find out more of it. First, let's hear some introduction Loot is offering to us.
Hey Muffin, this is Luke from K33. I was going to share a little bit about my personal life for this process. I am a self-employed entrepreneur. I live just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. I am a single dad to 6 kids. Luckily for me, 2 of the 6 kids don't live at home anymore. My 20-year-old, he is a type 1 diabetic, special needs. I have an 18-year-old daughter. She just graduated high school. And then I have a 16-year-old son. And then there's my final daughter. She's 14. She is my handful. But most of my playing time comes from being at a softball field. And I'd leave that softball field to go to my son's game at a baseball field. Leave that. Yeah, that's probably where 60% of my playing time comes from, is in between kids' games.
Okay, my first question is, do you remember when and why you started to play Guns of Glory?
Alright, so our first question you got here for me, Muffin. So why I started to play GOG was actually by accident. I was on a little website or whatnot, and this ad came up. It was about Army Men, the little green Army Men. I clicked on it, and it took me to the iTunes. It actually downloaded Guns of Glory. So I just went with it and started playing from there. As far as the timeline of when that happened, it was the earlier stages of my divorce. When I first landed in Guns of Glory, I landed in Kingdom 168. Had no idea what I was doing. Guns of Glory was my first any game that I'd ever played since I was a child. I think arcades was probably the last thing that I actually ever played. Here I am landing 168 up to the game. Did not quite understand the stats. I just kind of picked up the game off and on throughout a week or two, and I think it was 168's kill event, and like these 4 accounts just dropped into our alliance lines. I remember the guy's name was Safax, and then the other one was Lady Faded. It's like they were a killing duo. That everybody started screaming, boost this, boost that, put this up, shield, and I was like, I don't know what the hell a shield is, and definitely didn't know anything more than just building my account slowly, and I don't remember attacking threats. I don't think I really did much of that. After that first attack, I was like, man, this ain't gonna work. Figured out how to leave that alliance. I random, and for months, I don't think people really knew who I was at that time.
Do you remember when did you buy your first pack and what was it?
I think the first pack I probably bought was food. And I remember opening the food, opened all of it, opened all the food, and I did what I could with it because I didn't have many speed ups, so I probably bought speed ups. And I remember leaving about 40 million food unopened. Now this was in like maybe a C6 or C9. It was a smaller castle. I finally logged in. I was like, where in the hell is all my food? And I asked this new alliance that I just joined. So I joined Lady Faded and Safax. And they're like, oh, your troops ate it. I'm like, why are these troops eating their pixels? They're not even hungry. As far as liking the game in the beginning, yeah, probably not so much. I don't think I liked the game all that much. I did not really start enjoying the game until I started spending.
Okay, so how long it took you to become the strongest in the kingdom?
Most gotta remember the beginning stages of Guns of Glory. They are nothing like the game concept is today. We didn't really have troop speeds. You couldn't buy troop speeds in the store. Coming up with gold was rather difficult. It was actually a friend of mine that played in K168 that really helped push my power level. It's Isco. He and I started talking, and he's like, man, I'm gonna help you build. And he was saying, buy speeds and then attack, get the food. I would buy whatever Isco told me to buy. We end up building, I think either 3 or 4 C-40s together. That was actually a lot of fun. One of my better stories that I remember is probably against the terms of service. It was Sohan. He started a kingdom war. This guy wanted to be king, and it actually wasn't his turn to be king. He started burning every alliance that he could, started picking fights. He actually wasn't the villain of 168. There was a player by the name of Scarlet. Everybody was against her, hated her. She was the perfect villain for 168. Scarlet and I were not friends, but we talked here and there. She was actually strong enough to be a threat to a lot of people, and at this time we were trying to constantly have people come in for KVK. So she sends me a message online, and she's like, "Lute, I'm ready to get out of the game." At that time, we had Sohan from the Korean alliance that was going around and attacking. I was like, all right, if you can get your Scarlet account into the alliance and get a few farms into that alliance, one farm being mine, we might work out a deal. Well, for about a week, she was just trying to zero the account. And I was like, all right, that's not part of the deal. I can start bleeding them dry from the inside. So half of the time that Scarlet was in the Korean alliance tormenting 168 was her, and the other half was actually me. And I had a farm in there. Sohan, they started trying to rebuild their fort because we had done torn it down as a kingdom. And it was over $1 million in it. And he megged it. So I got on my other device. I sent my farm into it to help build the fort. I immediately started sending a march from Lute. I was going to get eaten up. And about 5 seconds before my troops landed, my farm took mega over the fort. And yeah, that was a good day.
What else do you perceive as accomplishment?
Definitely the people I've met is the biggest accomplishment. This game has introduced me to people all over the world that are incredible people, not just in the game, but outside the game. I've never met anyone in person, never had phone calls or conversations or anything like that I can recall. But definitely the biggest accomplishment from the game is probably the friends that I've met.
So what happened with you then?
So the start of my break was right around the time kingdoms were starting to put petitions together for a strike against Guns of Glory. So whenever they did the strike, they were striking against KVK. And it was literally like watching paint dry for 8 hours. It was awful. That pushed me into take a break, it seems like. During the break time, it was needed. My kids were becoming young adults to some degree. Time for me to step up, because being a single dad, they need me to help mold them into young adults. Taking a break, I think a break was actually somewhat needed. After my little break I took, I was like, man, all right, I'm going to come back into the game. I didn't want to come back into 168. So I just started a new fresh kingdom. The people in this kingdom that I played in, they were good people. They seemed like low spenders, except for one guy. He was helping out tremendously on resources and time that he invested in it.
From our previous talks, I know Lute had serious trouble with that account. I remember contacting him a long time ago, checking up on him, as I encountered some trouble with my account as well. But Lute's story is nothing like mine. I won't interrupt that story much, just hear him out.
After about 3 or 4 months, it was coming time for our very first KVK. 1 week before the KVK, I was on, and all of a sudden I got booted off the game. It said you logged in on another device. So I logged back in, and 1 minute later I was kicked back out. So immediately I contacted GOG VIP guy. While I was waiting on his response, I logged back in. I think I had about 10 million gold, something like that. Whoever was hacking into the account used the gold to upgrade all the buildings. They trained troops, and as soon as they trained it and used all the gold, they dismissed the troops. They took ship gears and pushed them all the gears that they could to level 7, which only left me with like 3 level 7 gears, which couldn't go back and change it. did tons of damage to the account. That wasn't the worst part of it. At that point in time, I thought it was like an in-game hacker or an in-game player or something, because then all that you had to have to access an account was how much gold and your airship's name, and you could get access to an account. So I started digging in deeper on that. Contacted customer service, which if you think customer service is bad now, you should have seen what it was. I started doing these throwaway accounts. I did 3 throwaway accounts, and each time we did a throwaway account, I was constantly getting kicked out of the game as I was logging in. Obviously, I wasn't going to spend any more until we got what that was figured out. So GOG was like, man, we got this account secure. You're good to go. So I went in to buy, I don't even know what pack it was. I think I bought 4 or 5 packs, and then I went back to the account and it said, man, you're not getting your packs due to a recent refund. How is it possible whoever hacked my account was able to get a refund? I went, contacted Apple. We went on the list, and everything was refunded. And that's the point where I did make a police report. It went from hacking and taking over a little game GOG account to personal finances. So once we got that, we never were able to actually narrow down who it was, but we managed to figure out how. They actually hacked into my iTunes account. And once they hacked into the iTunes account, they were able to download Guns of Glory. And once they downloaded Guns of Glory, I don't know how they got access to the account, but they were constantly able to get access to it. And when they refunded, they changed everything in my iTunes account to a throwaway credit card. And about $40,000 was refunded to that card. So after that happened, I kind of went on another hiatus and took a small break. And I was like, man, I'm never coming back to GOG. Now, which today we can say, man, that's not true. But at the time, I was pretty adamant. So now, after hearing the attacks in those sort of words.
Okay, I'll let Lut ask the next question by himself.
Yeah, I can see the next question. That's a good one. Why did you come back? Muff and I don't have a clue. Like, even though I stayed away from Guns of Glory, I deleted everything on my phone. I went head to head with pretty much iTunes or Apple, trying to figure it out, because I was like, man, I got this much money that was pretty much stolen from me in a certain way. I did pursue a lawyer, and they dug into it, and man, telling the lawyer what I spent money on was probably one of the more embarrassing times I've ever spent in a lawyer's office in my life. But we dug into it, and it actually did not fall on Guns of Glory. It fell more on iTunes. iTunes did not refund and reimburse the money that was taken from me, even though we had police reports and stories and proof and stuff like that. That brings the question, why did you come back? I still stay connected online with the GOG Monsters. Man, just as fun as it is actually playing the game, being a part of that group it's something special. From the things that other players say to Squonk, I'm going to mention him, reading what he has to say and his in-depth answers to people's questions was, oh man, the guy's he's incredibly smart. And then Cujo, he's just a fun guy. His team and his people that he plays with and he meets in the game, they mean something to him. So I didn't talk or say anything in the Guns of Glory GOG Monsters line room. The game started getting appealing to me, and I started doing my research on what's the best way to protect my real identity. I saw that Guns of Glory created the Kings Group, and they started seemed like they took security a little bit more to another level. And I'm not going to say it's because of me or anything like that, but it definitely meant they were trying. Yeah, as far as why I came back, it was the GOG Monster Room. Here I was part of this room, and I couldn't make any comments because I had no idea what they were talking about. Now, I guess the reason why I came back was I missed the guys. I missed the team. I missed the things that were involved, and I missed the discussion. So during my second break, I was reading up in the room, and somebody had posted about the drop of the C45 and T14s, T13s. I haven't been back long enough to really remember the troop sizes. I was like, man, that piqued my interest. Because I was one of the first C40s in the game, and the building process was always one of my favorites. It was a challenge trying to get badges back in the day, but they were just expensive. And then I saw G, which is Girl Is No One. He had come back, and I was like, all right, this guy's he's fixing to nail out the first C45 in the game. And without disappointment, I think I did not actually come back until he had already reached C45. And, of course, reading the line group, I saw the animosity building up between 169 and 33, and I saw some of the personal attacks that 169 had made towards Squonk. Having the respect that I did for Squonk and Ron and Cujo and all the K33 crew, I want to come back, and with any luck, they're going to give us 169, and I'll get to be a part of something that needs to be done, needs to be taken care of, because it might be a personal thing for me. Things that are said can be taken personal, but it just didn't set well with me. Kind of in a nutshell, I think that to some degree might explain why I joined K33. I contacted Cujo, and he brought it up to the team to run it through the loops and see if I qualified to be accepted, I guess, something like that, because K33 protects each other, and I mean, they should. They have built a very good thing there. So as once Cujo said, man, come on in. So I started an account in K33. Starting a new account today is, man, that's some dedication. I think it took about 30 minutes to even start my little account there. Cujo was the first person. He was like, man, boy, welcome. And man, K33, they're excited to have you there. They're excited to have you. And, of course, the guys that they don't want there, which somebody from 169, the first week that I joined K33, had somehow acquired a C40. And, man, within seconds of him being identified as a 169 player, that account was zeroed. Man, it's a good group. Whenever you describe good kingdoms, of course, there's 52, and there's other kingdoms that are considered elite. But for me, K33 was definitely the elite group that I wanted to play with. If I was going to spend money and be willing to send every troop I have in my castle to fight with, that was the group I wanted to do it with.
How is game different now for you? I mean, you're not the strongest in the kingdom anymore.
All right, Muffin. How's it different now? Oh, man. You can sit on the couch, kick your feet up. It's that good. As far as wishing for more order, no. I'm pretty content at being, I think I'm an R2, which is perfect. The knowledge that Girl has, and Romp and Squonk and Cujo, and they do carry a lot of weight, but they also have the knowledge to be able to carry that kind of weight. And of course, I came in after K33 had their length of war, which I don't know if it lasted a year or 2 years. It lasted a long time. I wish I come in earlier so I could have been a part of that, but most kingdoms wouldn't stick up and make it through it. A lot of kingdoms fall because of a lengthy war. It just worked out the way that it worked out to have K33 become what it is right now. And it made them stronger. It definitely made them stronger.
Would you personally change anything in K33?
Yeah, definitely the only thing I would change in K33 is my arrival time. I would have definitely joined a little bit earlier than I have. Instead of doing the new kingdom as I did, I would have gone back to K33.
In your opinion, is there any advantage K33 has over other kingdoms?
Well, there is the obvious. Girl G, he's a huge advantage. Not only is he a big monster account, but his knowledge of play is impeccable. And then you have Squonk. His knowledge of play is unparalleled to most players. Yeah, everybody in that kingdom's a worker, and it's a pretty cool thing to watch because there's no pressure. They do it willingly. So the biggest advantage that they have is each other.
I can't hear enough of the players' stories like this. You see for yourself, we may have a lot of fun, but also a lot of drama during playing this game. Eventually, it's all about the people. That's the reason why we play this game. You could hear how staying in one group of people, how staying in touch with them, had an influence on Lut's decision about coming back. If you have an interesting story, no matter if this is Kiviki, personal, rogue, war story, you know what to do. I will be happy to hear and tell more of them.